These couple of days that I film are quite random. Lots of unordinary tasks filled in with our normal everyday routine. Thanks so much for watching today. Come along with me as I share with you some of my random tasks. Today I'm starting out by making a garlic Parmesan pull-apart bread. And this was me just kind of playing around, testing, not really following a recipe. That is one thing that I really love to do with potato flake sourdough, is just experiment and see what I can come up with. Usually it's always edible. Sometimes it's not as good as others, but I mean, bread is just so good no matter what. I decided that I would make it kind of like a pull-apart monkey bread, but instead of the cinnamon and sugar that you would put in there, then you would put garlic, Parmesan, and some garlic butter. I did put some Italian seasonings in also because I thought that would give it a nice flavor. So what I ended up doing was on the bottom, I put a layer of the dough, rolled it up into balls, put it on there, then grated some cheese, put that on top with some Italian seasoning. I didn't really measure any of the add-in stuff that I was putting. I did make a dough and I measured for that, but I don't remember what I put in there right now. I did just use my spray, my oil sprayer that I just got, and y'all, I'm so excited about this thing. It is going to change so much because now I'm not going to have to buy spray oil like the aerosol spray that you can buy, which is convenient. There's nothing wrong with it, but I find that you typically need it right when you run out of it. And so with this, you can always fill up your bottle with whatever oil that you want. No matter if you run out of some, you probably have another type of oil on hand in your kitchen that you can fill it up with. I needed to use it to spray on my hand just a little bit so that these little balls were not sticking to my hand so bad. So I'm sticking it in the oven, but the oven is off. I put it in there to keep it warm and help it rise a little bit quicker. Ideally, you would probably get a better product by just letting it do its natural rise at your room temperature, but sometimes you're in a hurry, so you just got to get it done as fast as you can, and that is my quickest way, is putting it in the oven with the oven light on. So I think maybe it was the last video or the one before that, I made some focaccia bread and it was pretty good, but it wasn't perfect. This focaccia bread I changed up a little bit more and it was delicious. I made it in round 9-inch pans instead of a 9x13 pan. And I took this bread to this little get together along with some bread dip oil, and it was so yummy. The leftovers that we had of the cut up squares I brought home, and my kids loved eating on that for days. And then I took one of the loaves that was extra and cut it up, and we made our own copycat Panera chicken chipotle avocado melt, and it was so delicious. Now I am working on filling up some tie-dye bottles. We had planned to tie-dye some onesies at this little, it was like a baby shower get-together type thing. Not really a baby shower, more like a advice time for a new mom that I know, and it was a lot of fun. We decided that we were going to make some cute little onesies, but we got to talking the whole night and ended up not even making the onesies. But I have done them before. I made some onesies for my little girl that are tie-dye, and I've made tie-dye shirts with my boys, and so we will just save these, use them on another day. I like to make my own with the RIT dye just because it's a lot cheaper, more cost-effective, and you can make your dye look so much brighter and bolder. I don't really like it whenever the dyes look so washed out. Another tip with that is a lot of tie-dye kits tell you to make your shirt wet before you start tie-dyeing, and I just find that this just really takes away from the bright, bold colors, so I never get my shirt wet. I always do it dry and then let the dye dry on the shirt before rinsing it out and washing it. I'll just pack this away and save it for another time. Maybe we can have a little homeschool get-together tie-dye group one day this summer. That would be a lot of fun. Now I'm making the garlic butter to go on this monkey bread. I guess it's not monkey bread, garlic pull-apart bread. And I really love garlic butter. I mean, who doesn't, honestly? I just mixed some butter, garlic powder, garlic salt, onion powder, and some basil in it. I actually came up with these seasonings based off of a garlic spread that I tasted at Sam's Club. I looked up what were the ingredients in this butter because it was really good, and I just decided to kind of make my own copycat version at home. So once the bread had risen, I went ahead and basted it with the garlic butter. Then I baked it in the oven at 350 until it was golden brown on the top, and it actually looked prettier on the top than it did on the underside. So I'm going ahead and putting my spices away, but I'm going to use this time to revamp my spice cabinet just a little bit. These spice racks that my husband installed for me are one of my most favorite customized kitchen add-ons, I guess you would say, that I have, because I am very short. Someone actually commented on one of my other videos about how tall my husband looks compared to me, and you may not notice how short I am until you have something to really compare me to on screen. My husband, he is 6'4", and I am 4'11 and a half. I like to always make sure that I insert that half because, you know, when you're as short as I am, every half inch matters. I'm just come from a lot of short women. So my mom is very short, my sisters are short. It just is what it is. It doesn't really bother me anymore. You know, I got a lot of comments on it growing up, but now I'm kind of to the point where it's like, that's just who I am, and it really doesn't bother me. When I am walking around, I don't feel like I'm very short. However, when I am in the grocery store, I do feel kind of short. But I got these stickers I wanted to put on my spice jars. They're not super noticeable, but they're cute. They were only a couple bucks, and I thought it would just look nice. The tops of them actually have labels on them too that I just wrote on with a chalk marker. Obviously, since I'm short, I don't really see the tops of them, so I wanted a way to be able to see them from the front, what was inside the jars. And some people ask if it's worth putting your spices in the little mason jars. I think it is, especially for the seasonings and spices that you use most often. Now, I do have another little box up in the cabinet up above that has some lesser used spices that I will pull down whenever I need those. I pulled the garlic pull-apart bread out of the oven, and it looked pretty good. I flipped it out into this pie dish because I thought that it was a nice, cute way to serve it. But whenever I flipped it over, the top of it was very, I don't know, dull. And maybe that's because I didn't put any cheese in the bottom of the pan. I didn't put any seasonings in the bottom of the pan, so it just looks like bread all smushed together. So I decided just to flip it over, baste a little bit more of the garlic butter on top. I did try a little piece, and it didn't bother me. I was trying to decide whether I was going to take this or the focaccia bread to the little baby advice shower get-together thing. I ended up deciding just to take the focaccia bread because it turned out so well. And we ate on this garlic bread for several days along with our dinner. I just went ahead and heated it up each time, and we would dip it in some marinara sauce, and it was pretty good. Probably not something I'll make again. And if I do, I will definitely switch it up a little bit because it wasn't my favorite. I probably would prefer like a cheesy bread. I actually think it would be really yum to make a jalapeno cheesy bread with some type of spicy dip. I actually really loved the jalapeno cheesy bread that Little Caesars used to have when I worked there, 10, 15 years ago now? Wow, 15, it's been a while. I think I'll try to make some type of copycat healthier version of that. Under our sink has slowly been a problem. I showed in one of my videos how I reattached these little pieces on the top of my sink with some acrylic silicone caulk because the water was leaking through, and it wasn't leaking a lot of water at once, but just a little bit over time. And I just think about how often I'm washing dishes and it's dripping down. So you could see all of this board was just completely dry rot and falling apart. You could just pick it out with your hands. So my husband tore that out, and I'm gonna have to show you in another video how I'm gonna fix it up under there because I just didn't have time to get to it this week. I had other things going on, and so he put the new board down under there, stuck the stuff back under, and I will make it look nice later on. It may not even be in this next week's video, because my little girl's birthday is coming up, and so we're gonna have a lot going on. I've got to make her cake, and I'm really excited. I will show you that next week. It's gonna be a cute little chicken cake, so come back to see how that turns out. I really hope that it turns out good. So I just worked on some dough for bagels, and now I'm filling up a pot. This is the next day. So I mixed up the dough at night. This is the next day. I was thinking, oh yeah, I need to go ahead and get the water preheated so that I can boil my bagels. But I forgot that once you shape them, you still have to let them rise again. So I ended up utilizing that water for something else here in a bit. But I went ahead and covered my pan with parchment paper, got the bagel dough out of my mixing bowl, and I will divide it up into 8 equal pieces. So I actually made bagels probably about a month ago now, and they turned out so good. And this was me testing recipe, but I totally forgot to write down what I did, what measurements, anything. I don't even remember, honestly, what I did. And so this time I was experimenting again, and it didn't turn out exactly the way that it did last time, but part of that could be some of the things that I did wrong along the way. So we get 8 bagels out of this recipe, and I shaped them into a ball, tried to bring a little tension on the bottom to close up, but this dough was just a little bit too dry, I was afraid. And I think that's something I'm gonna switch up for the next time that I try these out. Then you want to poke a hole in the middle and kind of use your fingers to spin the dough around and around to help make the dough or the hole in the middle, because as these rise, the hole will shrink, and then it's going to be even harder to keep your hole as they get puffier. So I'll show you a trick here in a little bit whenever I do boil them on how to keep a small hole. Now, I don't know about you, but I actually prefer bagels that have less of a hole than a big hole, but I do want them to have a little bit of a hole that gives them that classic bagel look. But I kind of like to be able to have a whole entire bagel with no hole to spread my cream cheese on, but that's just my preference. So here I am sticking them back in my warm oven. I don't ever turn it on. This is just with the light on, but I'm putting them in there to help it rise because I really want to boil them before I go to an appointment later. We have an eye appointment, but I don't get to it till after we get back. While I am waiting on the water to start boiling in the pot, I go ahead and make up some of my homemade laundry detergent. I'm actually doing a huge batch right now, and so I am tripling it. But if you want to make just a small batch, I used 1 cup of Epsom salt, 1 cup of washing soda, 1 cup of baking soda, and half a cup of baby OxiClean would just be the small amount for just one batch. And if you want to get a printable version of that along with a free label for your container, you can head on over to my blog and get that. I will post a link in the description box below so that you can find it really easily. I actually like using the baby OxiClean right now in this current season just because we have so many stains. And so this really helps get some stains out, and it's one of the most safe OxiCleans out there. There's no scents, and pretty much everything on the back you can pronounce. And I like to make sure whenever I am mixing up the powder to try and get out any clumps. That's why I used a whisk and a spoon. Use the whisk to try to help get some of the clumps out, and then use my spoon also to press out some of the clumps on the side. I know a lot of people like to use a glass pretty mason jar or some type of flip swing top lid of some type for their homemade laundry detergent, but I honestly was terrified of it falling off of the top of my washing machine, and so I decided to opt in for a plastic container that looked nice. I used one of those OXO pop containers. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, if you say it OXO or OXO, I don't even know. Just now figured out that I don't know how to pronounce that type of container. I have really enjoyed making our own laundry detergent. I haven't done this since we first got married, mainly because we used to do a lot of couponing and I got stocked up on a lot of laundry detergent and I just couldn't bear to not use it up. And recently we just ran out of a lot of the laundry detergent, and so I decided to give it a try to make some. And this stuff works so well, especially for these cute little kids who play outside all the time. And it is natural. I know what is in there and I feel good. And it is so much cheaper. So much cheaper. So while the kids are playing outside, their dad is out there with them, I am getting started on dinner for today. I'm making a chicken spaghetti with the Rotel, and I know a lot of people use like Velveeta cheese. When I was looking at recipes, it was actually kind of difficult to find a recipe that did not have the Velveeta cheese in it. I finally came across one, and I just kind of used it as a guide to give me an idea of how I wanted to make it. So basically, I just sauteed some peppers, onions, garlic, then added some flour and along with the butter and some seasonings, made a roux, added some milk and chicken broth. Then I let this all simmer for a little bit, added some Parmesan and cheddar cheese. I sometimes have my own shredded cheese in the freezer, and sometimes I buy shredded cheese. It really just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Then I added some Rotel and gave it a good mix. I decided to throw in some canned mushrooms, that it would be kind of yum, and also put in some sweet peas. I love to shred my chicken with my KitchenAid mixer. If you have not done that, it is such a game changer because you just throw it in your mixer, walk off, come back a few minutes later, and it's all shredded and you don't have to stand there and work on it. Speaking of my mixer, the bowl that is on my mixer was a Christmas gift that I got from my husband. I don't even know if I've mentioned that yet because I can't quite keep up with everything that I've talked about, but I really love this new mixer bowl. It is ceramic and it just looks so pretty sitting out on my counter, and it has a handle and a spout on it for easy pouring, and it has been a really good gift that is going to serve me well over the next hopefully several years, and hopefully I don't break it. It actually got knocked off of the counter the other day by my little girl when I was wearing her on my back. She got close to the counter, reached out, grabbed it, pulled it off, and I just saw it before I could even catch it, and it fell on the ground. Thankfully, it did not break. So that actually is a good sign to me that it is going to last us for a while if it did not break when that happened. I had a few minutes extra, so I got the dishes loaded in. After we got back from the eye doctor, I decided I wanted to check on my bagels, and I probably should not have left them in the oven because they got way too puffy, but we're going to bake them anyways. So my little trick that I was talking about is using a chopstick to stick in the middle of the bagel and spin it around once you have it in the water, and that will help keep the hole there in your bagel. Whenever you're done boiling them, you put them in the oven and bake them to finish them off, and I can just tell that they were definitely overproofed because they are, I don't know, kind of wrinkly, sort of. I don't really know how else to describe it. One of the bagels did not rise enough. It definitely got a little bit deflated after I took it out of the water. Here's the chicken spaghetti that I made. It was very yummy. The next morning, I decided to try out my bagels. They looked pretty good. I popped them in the toaster, got them nice and toasty on the inside, and then spreaded them with some cream cheese. I just use a plain cream cheese. My mom, she really likes the strawberry cream cheese, and I know lots of people like different types of flavors of cream cheese, or they might dress it up with some bagel seasoning, and I'm just a plain Jane, I guess, when it comes to certain things. I just really love the good old classic cream cheese on a bagel. Thank you so much for stopping by today and watching along as I showed you some things in a day in my life. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will be making more videos like this. See you again next time.